Hello and welcome to this November 2023 exam tips video for Level 6 Module 4, Future Strategic Challenges as part of Level 6 syllabus, Professional Diploma in Procurement and Supply. So November 2023 exam theme is the digitalisation of procurement and supply chains. So I guess the thing about the module itself is it's trying to get you to think about the fact that there's a volatile global environment around us, and of course that poses numbers of threats to our traditional concepts. And it also presents us with strategic challenges as procurement professions. So us in procurement and our leaders are required to kind of have that knowledge of any present challenges in our function and also prepare ourselves for the future strategic challenges, because, undoubtedly we're going to be faced with challenges and changes upon us. So Level 6 Module 4 is designed to challenge the way that we think and the way that we look ahead, and to consider the future strategic challenges, not just for us, but also for our profession. So you've got the module aims being this kind of threat traditional concepts, the fact that it presents strategic challenges to us in procurement. We need the knowledge of present challenges, and we need to be prepared for the future. So there's only two learning outcomes. We've got learning outcome 1, which is to understand the changing needs and requirements for procurement and supply. And then number 2 is understanding the future challenges of procurement and supply. So I guess almost number 1 is kind of saying what's happening today. And then number 2 is sort of saying, well, what we do about that in the future. So what you can do to prepare yourself for this exam, I think it's super important that you develop your knowledge and research skills. So really good to sort of source relevant literature. Don't forget to assess the validity of that literature and justify your arguments. Remember, this is an evidence-based approach in a closed book environment. Now, it's not a theory essay. What you need is evidence. So that's things like surveys, research, reports, expert opinions, or even examples from where you work and any other research that you've done yourself. So what SIPs advise is that you gather data from lots of different sources, but make sure those sources are reliable. Wouldn't hurt to start with some academic resources like journals or textbooks, but make sure the author is very well known and credible. You can look at SIPs Supply Management. This is a good source of knowledge. It's got a lot of reliable data. And you can look at Google Scholar as well, which is quite a useful search engine. You can do your own primary research, but I don't think you'll have time to do that if you haven't already done that between now and when this exam theme was released. So perhaps look at some secondary data and then look for things that have previously been published, but not necessarily for your benefit. But ask yourself, are your findings consistent? Are there any conflicts? Do you agree with it? Do you not agree with it? And I think it's really important that once you've analysed your data, you make some sort of recommendations or you draw some conclusions, and make sure you support the data that you've analysed. So as you can see, the theme is about digitalisation of procurement and supply chains. In terms of where that learning comes from, I think it could come from a number of different sections, really, because kind of underpinning your knowledge is that as you've gone through your level 5 and level 6 journey, you will have undoubtedly learned about a lot of the underpinning knowledge. So you've got level 5, module 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, as well as level 6, module 1, 2, and 3. And there's an appreciation of all other modules as well. So for example, from level 6, module 3, under 2.4, there is a section about evaluating ways to achieve lean and agile supply chains. And the same under 4.2 about methods to measure that performance. And both of those learning outcomes refer to the use of technology to communicate data in the supply chains. On the same module, you've got 3.1, which looks at evaluating approaches to developing and implementing supply chain collaboration. And that's all about data integration in the supply chains. So again, it wouldn't hurt to kind of refresh some of the stuff you've done on level 6, module 3. If you've done level 6, module 7, maybe again, worth having a look at your notes. 1.1, or sorry, learning outcome 1 is about the concept of big data and that impact on global supply chains. Learning outcome 2 is about the data integrity, and learning outcome 3 is the impact of cybersecurity. Equally, if you've done module 8, level 6, module 8, then perhaps you can draw from some of the contrasts at 1.3 in developments in technology. So that looks at things like data integrity and integration between organizations in the supply chain. Or 2.1, where technology can be used to improve procurement and supply, such as data analytics and capture. And of course, you've got tools as well and techniques that are available under 1.2 for ERP and databases and things like that. Now, in terms of revision materials, I tend not to do too much on this because there's another gentleman called David Deering who has a regular webinar and revision material that he pulls together, which really helps a lot of the students. You can see in this screenshot the web address. It's sips-study-guide-mock-exam-practice. And if you scroll practically down to the bottom of the page, you'll see this bit where it says new SIPS L6M4 revision material. Now, there was a webinar on the 5th of November, which has obviously passed, but you can actually get access to that recording for £5. If you see from the drop-down list that I've done a screenshot on, or you can have a look at theme research at £12. So yeah, there's different options for you in terms of, you know, what you think would be useful for you between now and then. And if your budget can stretch to that, it might just save you a little bit of time doing some of the research yourself, because David would have done a lot of that for you. So I just want to talk about exam technique a little bit again. So always, as I say, start with an introduction. You need to set the scene, define the concepts, but don't write everything you know about the theme. Link the theme to the question. Provide evidence that's from the research that you've previously done, or you could talk about something in your own workplace. Think about the positives, think about the negatives, provide examples. But don't just describe them, you've got to analyse them. So I think with the analysing, ask yourself, so what? So when you write a paragraph, really simply, a short sentence or whatever, and then think to yourself, so what? You know, what are the consequences of that statement? And always finish with an evaluative conclusion at the end. The exam is 2 hours. There are 2 questions. Don't bullet point or write lists. It's important that you give examples and cite studies that you've done. Write paragraphs, relate them back to the theme, and relate to the future. So remember that question 1 is going to be either linking to procurement and supply, whereas question 2 is more likely to be linked to the profession. So, you know, really think about that kind of essay type style answer that you can put together, you know, a strong introduction, a body, and a conclusion. Leave spaces between the paragraphs. The examiner can get a little bit distracted or find it hard to pick out what you're trying to say if it's too many words all at once. So really think about how you space it out. The body of the essay, probably I'd say aim for a good 4 or 5 well-argued paragraphs, each of them with a backup statement, you know, based on your theory, your practice. And don't forget the so what test, but conclude at the end. So a useful phrase to use when evaluating is to start off by saying, however, you know, would also need to consider this because, or the decision may depend on X. So a lot of people kind of ask me, well, how many words shall I write? I mean, for a 25-mark question, we tend to say, I mean, it's quality over quantity, let's be honest, but I think you should be looking at a couple of sides of A4 paper, so roughly between 700 to 800 words. So that will be your introduction, your main body, and your conclusion. If you only write, half of that, then obviously 2 to 3 paragraphs worth, let's say, then you're only going to get half the marks. So a common way to kind of look at that, I suppose, is to think about clear chains of reasoning with connecting words. So it can really help the students to get a better mark if you think about the cause and effect. So you might say, this is the cause because, or since this happened, or on the account of X, or for the reason of that. But then the effect is something like, well, therefore, or consequently, or accordingly, or as a result of, etc. So I think it's just important, I guess, that you really underpin your knowledge from your previous studies. It's really about making sure learners understand and underpin the knowledge you've already gained. That's why there's no book for this particular module, because you've learnt it all before. So I think just trust in what you know. Other things, if you want to, there is a free e-learning module for level 6 module 4 on the SIPS website, which you can get from the e-learning side. And then my final thoughts for you is about managing that time well. You've got 2 hours, 2 questions, so ensure that you give each of them an equal amount of time, because if you spend all your time on the first question and run out of time for the second question, it can really hamper your ability to get a decent enough mark to pass. So even if you haven't finished at the hour, stop and go on to the next question. And thank you so much for watching. I really wish you the best of luck. And yeah, let me know how it goes. Take care.